Today I will be discussing the understanding of how patients and providers comprehend and use genetic testing, the final module in the UCSF-Stanford CERSI course, Regulatory Science for Next Generation Diagnostics. My name is Laura Koontz, and I'm a member of the Personalized Medicine staff within the Office of In Vitro Diagnostics at the FDA. Prior to joining FDA, I was the Director of Policy at a patient advocacy organization for women affected by hereditary cancer, so this topic is near and dear to my heart. As I'm sure you well know, next-generation sequencing technology is being rapidly integrated into clinical care and serves as a basis for a new wave of diagnostic tests. However, there are numerous challenges slowing the integration of this technology into clinical care, including a lack of understanding of how these tests should be developed and validated, how the analytical and clinical performance of these tests should be assessed, and how the results of these tests are best communicated to patients and providers. The UCSF CERSI, along with FDA, have proposed a regulatory science research roadmap for tackling these challenges. This roadmap was published in the April 2016 issue of Science Translational Medicine and is an excellent companion to this course. Each of the lectures in this series has discussed one of these strategic objectives outlined in the paper, and today we will discuss the ninth and final objective, understanding how patients and providers interpret genetic testing. As you can well appreciate, the success of NGS-based tests ultimately depends upon whether the end users, patients and providers, know what to do with the results that they are given. The goal of genetic testing is to inform patient and providers about the diagnosis, disease risk, adverse drug responses, therapeutic interventions, and other medically relevant information. However, there are numerous challenges with clinical genetic testing. First, we are in an era where clinical genetic testing is being rapidly adopted for a number of diagnostic purposes. For example, genetic testing is now being used widely in the diagnosis of disease, to determine the risk of a patient developing a disease or condition later in life, to determine the correct treatment for a type of cancer, and even to predict fetal abnormalities during pregnancy. However, this rapid adoption of testing is also putting strain on the healthcare system. There is a limited number of genetics professionals in practice, including medical geneticists and genetic counselors, that leading to long patient wait times for some patients to even forgo their services. This is a particular issue for people living in rural areas away from major academic medical centers. Many patients may instead choose to work with their primary care provider or other physician to gain access to genetic testing. However, many of these non-specialists have a limited understanding of genetics. They might not always understand which test might be the correct one to order, and they may have difficulty interpreting the results for a patient when they are returned. Many healthy patients are also getting direct-to-consumer genetic testing done and asking their physician for help to interpret the results. Many patients and providers complain that the test reports they receive are not always understandable or informative, nor are the implications of the testing always well understood. After getting genetic testing done, some patients and providers may think, now what? As it's not always clear what next steps should be taken based on the results. In March 2016, the FDA held a day-long workshop to hear patients and providers discuss their views and preferences on the return of genetic test results. The meeting focused on the need for accurate and useful information for patients and their healthcare providers to make informed decisions about treatment, prevention, lifestyle, reproductive options, and having information about their own condition. The workshop consisted of 3 panels comprised of patient advocates, researchers, internal medicine physicians, oncologists, maternal fetal health specialists, genetic counselors, and other healthcare providers. One of the key takeaways from this meeting was that patients and providers are both comfortable receiving ambiguous or not yet fully understood genetic test results, such as variants of unknown significance. They believe that that information may have medical relevance for them, even if it is not immediately actionable, that it may be useful in the future when more is known about the genetic variant in question. At the same time, patients and providers also emphasized the test results should be accurate and presented in a way that is easily interpretable. Many participants discussed the need for context and supporting information to help non-specialists understand results of genetic tests. Some even advocated for standardized test reports. Other panelists discussed inventive ways to help provide context around test results. For example, someone proposed a color-coded system for results. Those that were highly linked to disease could be green. Those where the data was at odds or inconclusive could be yellow, and variants that were not linked to disease could be red. Other suggestions included inclusion of a frequently asked questions document for the test or individual variant, as well as a graphical or pictorial explanations and videos to help put the results in context. When discussing the use of tests, panelists discussed the need for a thorough discussion of the ramifications of the test results. Medical providers at the meeting expressed a need for results to be reported in terms of lifetime risk for the patient, not relative risk. As we've heard, test reports and product labeling are the key ways that patients and providers receive and understand information about the test that they are using. The FDA has regulatory oversight of both the test report and product label through the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. Under the Act, FDA has oversight of both the label, which is affixed directly to a container of a product, and any associated labeling, which is much broader. Labeling encompasses the text of the label, instructions for use, product insert, advertised information about the product, test report, and so on. Therefore, FDA could require test developers to include certain types of information in their product labeling, such as a clear description of test risk and benefits, limitations of the test, the level of certainty of the linkage between a genetic variant and a certain disease or condition, and other information that the user might require. But what types of information should be included and how that information is best presented is an open question. FDA has heard from some medical professional societies that test report standardization is desired in some clinical applications. For example, physicians would like to know where to quickly find relevant information on a test report and have some standardization about the way that information is presented. But there may be some circumstances where standardization may not be appropriate. Regulatory science research could help answer these and other questions. So how can regulatory science play a role in helping patients and providers understand genetic test results? Regulatory science could be done to help test developers and the FDA understand patient and provider preferences for NGS test labeling and test reports. Research could be done to determine how risk, benefits, and a linkage of a particular variant to a particular phenotype are best communicated for various disease contexts. For example, tumor profiling may require a different approach than prenatal testing. Researchers could determine how limitations of a test or technology are best communicated so that patients and providers understand them. Researchers could also assess patient and provider preferences about other materials, such as graphic explanations, linkage to patient advocacy organizations, etc., are desired. To garner a wide variety of perspectives, researchers could engage with a number of diverse constituencies to gain their perspectives. In assessing patient preferences, it may be useful to work with patients and caregivers across a spectrum of diseases and conditions. Patients with cancer, parents of a child with a genetic condition, women interested in assessing their risk of hereditary breast and ovarian cancer, expectant mothers, and so on. Likewise, it may be beneficial to engage with physicians from a variety of practice types, including primary care physicians, genetic specialists, oncologists, and OBGYNs. Of course, there may be other research projects that could be designed to assess patient and provider preferences. In summary, getting the perspective of the end users of NGS testing, patients and providers, is critical to the successful clinical adoption of precision medicine. Regulatory science to understand patient and provider preferences could be immensely helpful to test developers designing test reports and labeling that meet patient and provider needs and expectations. Thank you.